Hello and welcome to Take Your Life Back Today show with me, Ralf Friedrichs. Today I'm going to talk about tips for raising drug-free children, drug-free kids. What are some of the tips to raise them? Of course, you cannot shield them forever, but while they're at home, what is wrong, besides always being a good role model, is to educate not only yourself, but educate them about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. As always, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Luis Gonzalez from StartingPointMN.com. You can reach him at 844-414-8444. He is an addiction recovery coach that can help you from your addiction to your recovery, hand in hand, step by step, day by day, 24 hours at a time, not worrying about yesterday, but concentrating on today and tomorrow. Yesterday is gone. We can only learn from it, but we will not hash on the past, because it is counterproductive to bring up your past, because that might cause a relapse in your recovery. So what we want to do is work on today, and that's exactly what Dr. Luis Gonzalez from StartingPointMN.com does. That's Dr. Luis Gonzalez from StartingPointMN.com at 844-414-8444. You can also go to him for addiction recovery coaching. In other words, you want to be an addiction recovery coach, you call him at 844-414-8444, and he can help you become an addiction recovery coach. If you possess personality, professionalism, and a passion to help other people, and you have an addiction background, whether it's your own battles or maybe helping a loved one or a family member, call him at 844-414-8444. That's Dr. Luis Gonzalez from StartingPointMN.com. GlobalEyeglasses.com, where they are focused on saving you money. They have frames that start as low as $6 and go up to about $69. And listen to this, what these frames include are a case, a cloth, and standard plastic single vision non-coated lenses. That is all included in that price. So many of you folks have contacted me since I started doing these little promos on my videos, and it is my pleasure to help each and every one out, because you have the opportunity to not only hear my good news about addiction recovery, but also you have the privilege and the opportunity to know that I am someone in the optometry field for 30 years, so I can help place your order. So what you need to do is to text me at 631-599-0218 or call me at 844-405-HELP, and I will help you place your order with eyeglasses, because what they have is progressives, what they have is transitions, what they have is photochromatics, polarization lenses, thinner lenses, polycarbonate, which is shatterproof lenses. That's all available at Global Eyeglasses. So contact me and I will help place your order. Again, they have frames that start as low as $6 and go up to about $69, and those frames include a cloth, a case, standard non-coated plastic lenses, clear lenses with a standard prescription. So contact me at 631-599-0218, 844-405-HELP. Now I will help place your order for GlobalEyeglasses.com, where they are focused on saving you money. Folks, go to my websites for this show. The website is www.takeyourlifebacktoday show. And then for my informational website, which is all the 411, the information on recovery, on addiction, all articles on there are written by either doctors, psychologists, or therapists, or counselors, not by me. I'm the mere messenger. However, I have my videos on it, and I have plenty of other stuff that I have done. And on page 7, you will find a treatment rehab center located in every state. There's at least 1 or 2 centers that I have listed on page 7. If you do not see, you'll definitely see your state, but if you don't see a local location from your state on my website, Google search rehab treatment centers for your state, and you should find it. And if you still have a problem, contact me at 631-599-0218, 844-405-HELP, and I'll help you find a rehab treatment center. Go to my last website, which is www.clearreform.com. That's my addiction recovery coaching website, where I will help you go from your addiction to your recovery, just like Dr. Luis Gonzalez. We both do the same thing. United States is so huge, and the drug epidemic is even huger, that we can have thousands of addiction recovery coaches and still not try to get to each and every one, because what it really comes down to is the people. There are thousands of people out there, millions maybe, that are addicted, but the problem is it's only thousands, maybe 10, 100,000 people actually stop denying that they have a problem. They actually reach out to people like myself, Dr. Luis Gonzalez, But if each and every person would stop denying they have a problem and realize that they have an addiction problem, we would have to start training brand new coaches real quick, because that's how huge the alcohol and drug epidemic is, not only here in the States but globally. So reach out to my websites, www.takeyourlifebacktodayShow, www.clearreform.com, and www.clearviews.info. You guys, you probably noticed my new intro on this video, and you'll get to see after this segment, right towards the end, you'll get to see my teaser leaving the end. And I just wanted to say that I've kind of shortened the videos because I felt that they were just too long, and I don't want to bore you to death because the message is the most important. Tips for raising drug-free kids. Your child is always watching you. What he is or she is learning about values and behaviors about drugs come from you. Do you quickly grab painkillers to try to ease the pain for yourself? And if that's what you do, don't do it in front of your children. Matter of fact, be careful when you even do it, because you can become addicted to it. Stop grabbing the painkiller for each and every little pain. Your kids will notice, so be aware and be careful. Tips for you, parents. Keep meds locked up at all times. I've spoken about this in maybe about 200 videos ago, about we all have a legal drug dealer living within our home, right under your roof. That drug dealer is called Mr. Medicine Cabinet in your bathroom. And why do I call him a legal drug dealer? Because you keep your painkillers in there. You keep all sorts of medications that have addictive measures to it. In other words, people with addictive personalities will utilize whatever's in your medicine cabinet, and then your medicine cabinet becomes a legal drug dealer. So if you have any addictive medicine, lock them up somewhere. So keep medicines locked up. Be aware of drugs that tempt children. What are some of those drugs that will tempt your children? Do a little research, Google, educate yourself like I do, and be aware and lock them up. Emphasize to your children that good choices equals good results. It's very important, because just recently we spoke about role model, and you are the role model. So whatever you tell your kids, whatever you do, preach to your kids, practice yourself what you preach. Explain to your kids of why you want them to be drug-free. What are the benefits of being drug-free? But on the other token, on the other hand, explain to them what are the dangers of being addicted or even using drugs and alcohol. Educate yourself on how to prevent your kids from using drugs. Folks, Google, Yahoo, Bing, full of information. You can just about type anything in there and just about get any answer. Now, a lot of stuff that you do read on those answers, don't believe everything you read. Double check some of those things. Don't. Some people just write stuff, and it becomes as if it was written in stone. And don't believe that. Do a little research. I'm telling you right now, the best place to get all your information on drugs and alcohol is the CDC, is the Mayo Clinic, and there's also MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, otherwise known as Students Against Drunk Driving. So watch, educate yourself on how to prevent your kids from using. And last but not least, for the tips for parents before we go into age categories, is watch that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to put this in the best way. There are certain sports in school, football, possibly basketball. Watch which sports elevate the risks of your children using drugs and alcohol. You ever get one of those brain freezes and you just don't know how to put the words? But it is very important that we pay attention to the sports that will possibly elevate the risks of your children doing drugs and alcohol. So watch out for those sports. Now listen up. Parents with kids from birth until 5 years old. Here are some personal tips from me to you. Abstain from all drugs, alcohol, and meds while breastfeeding. That's what you have to be careful for. So you need to be careful, because from birth to 5 years old is the category, and you are part of that birthing if you're the mother. So you need to be very you have to be very careful, is what I'm trying to say. Abstain yourself from drugs, alcohol, meds while breastfeeding. Because even when their child is born and you start breastfeeding, whatever you take in will be transformed through the breast into the child's system. So be careful. Follow exact med dosage for your child. If it says to give a certain amount, don't think, well, if you give maybe a little bit more, that'll speed up the recovery. It won't. It'll give you the notion of knowing that maybe you're causing an overdose, so be careful. Be vigilant about keeping all medicines locked up. Please do that. Now, for parents with kids from ages 6 to 9, here are some tips from me to you. Talk about dangers of drugs with your children. This is a good time. Remember, your children absorb so much when they're that young. Their brains are like sponges. They absorb tons. Number 2, when your kids are sick, be thoughtful on how to give them drugs to get them better. So you have to be really careful. Like I said, if it says to give something, give something. And try not to just randomly give them every time they sneeze or sniffle. Seek professional help. Use common sense. Never give aspirin. There has been some research done that it does cause Reye's syndrome. It can cause Reye's syndrome. So be careful with aspirins. For parents with children from 10 to 15, some tips from me to you. Ask your child what he or she thinks about drugs. Pick their brains a little bit. Let's see how good or how far they are into the knowledge of how bad drugs and alcohol be, and what is the school teaching them. So this is a good time to pick their brain. If you discover your child is trying drugs and alcohol, be careful not to overreact. Talk about why it's important to be drug and alcohol free. Explain to them these are the benefits of being alcohol and drug free. On the other hand, turn it around and say, Johnny, these are the dangers. And, you know, sometimes you have to be very explicit and be very direct, but explain that, because when they see the good compared to the bad, hopefully their common sense, even at the ages 10 to 15, will trigger them to know that the good will overcome the bad. For parents with kids ages 16 to 18, and then after 18 they're leaving probably off to college. Here are some tips from me to you. Continue to express your views, rules, values about drugs. Definitely you got to continue. Keep jumping, keep feeding them the information. Let them know how you feel about drugs and alcohol. Let them know what the rules in this house are about usage of drugs and alcohols, and explain to them the values of not using drugs and alcohol. Ask your teenager what he or she thinks about drugs. Pick their brain even more. Let's see how much have they advanced between 10 and 15 to now being 16 to 18. And create consequences about drug use before it's too late. Let them know these are the rules, these are the punishments when these rules are broken. It is so crucial that you hop on it over and over. You can't beat this drum unnecessarily, because this drum needs to be beat over and over and over. So don't think you're wasting the beats on this drum. Beat it, beat it, beat it. You need to pound and pound this information into your children, because you can't just explain it on September when school starts and figure they're going to go through the rest of the year remembering. September, October, November, just keep going. And even during the summer, keep going, because during the summer they're going to be going out with their friends, possibly going down the street to the stores. They will go past drug dealers, they'll go past stores that sell alcohol, that possibly their kids that are outside drinking some of that alcohol. So prepare them, pound the information, beat that drum over and over. Folks, these were the tips on raising drug-free kids, and it's so important that you adhere to them. Your child is always watching you, so whatever you do at home, your child is going to do. So every time you pick or go and grab a painkiller at a Mr. Medicine Cabinet, a legal drug dealer, and you pop it into your mouth, your kids are going to think, well, every time I have some sort of issue, every time I have pain, I should just go and do that too. No. Be aware, be careful, and remember, your kids take note to every single move you make. Even when you think they're not watching you, they are. They're very smart children. Tips for you parents. Keep meds locked up. Keep them away from Mr. Medicine Cabinet. Any addictive medication. should never be willy-nilly in your medicine cabinet for your children to get. Even if you have to lock them up in your bedroom, any addictive, especially if you have children that have an addictive personality. Be aware of drugs that tempt your children. Find out what tempts children usually. It's usually the painkillers. It could be any sniffing item that possibly if they sniff it they get a certain high. Educate yourself, use Google search for that. Emphasize good choices. Let them know these are good choices in life, and if you don't make those good choices and you made the bad choices, these are the consequences from those bad choices. Explain to your kids on why you want them to be drug-free. Tell them the benefits of living a drug-free life. Tell them the negatives about doing drugs, about how it could hurt their liver, their kidneys, their heart, their brain. Let them know these things. Sometimes it's good to give the cold facts and let it sink in. Educate yourself on how to prevent your kids from using. Again, utilize Google search for that because it's very informative. Watch what sports give greater risk of alcohol and drug abuse at your school. Football and basketball are probably the two where there's always a lot of celebration going on. Celebration usually equals partying. Partying usually equals drug and alcohol abuse and use. Watch what, we said that right. So now the next category is for parents with kids from birth to 5 years old. Make sure you abstain yourself if you're breastfeeding from any drugs and alcohol medication while you're breastfeeding. Abstain yourself totally. Because whatever goes into you gets transported through your breast milk into your child. You might as well just hand your children the alcohol, drugs, and medication directly into your mouth if you're going to do that and transfer it through the breast milk into your children. Abstain yourself from drugs, medications, and alcohol. Follow exact medication dosages for your children. If your children have some sort of cold or anything and you feel that you have to give medication, because you really shouldn't just willy-nilly give out medication for every sniffle and cough. But if you do, follow to the T the dosages. Just because you're going to give a little bit more than what it says on the box will not speed up the process. If anything, you might hurt the child, possibly even overdose the child. Be vigilant about keeping all medications locked up, especially if you have an addictive personality child and you have addictive medication that are very tempting for the child. Keep them locked up. Keep them out of the medicine cabinet. For parents with kids 6 to 9, let's see, where are we? Talk about dangers of drugs with your children. Explain to them these are the dangers, and explain to them on the other hand, and these are the repercussions of doing it. And let them know also on the brighter side, of the positive side, because I believe in positivity, that these are the pleasures of not doing drugs and alcohol. When your kids are sick, be thoughtful on how you give meds to your children. Again, just because they're sniffling and coughing should not mean you should run out and go and buy NyQuil and Robitussin and all those medications, because many medications have alcohol. They have some sort of sleeping tool in them, so be careful. It does not hurt to contact your medical professional prior to dispensing any sort of medication to your child or teenager. Next one is never give aspirin. May cause Rye syndrome. There has been a research done that it may cause that, so be careful with aspirin. For parents with kids from 10 to 15, ask your child what he or she thinks about drugs. Pick their brain. See how far they've come with the knowledge of drugs and alcohol. Pick their brain and continue to pick their brain. Don't just do it in September and forget about it all the way till June. Do it every month. If you discover your child is trying drugs and alcohol, be careful not to overreact. Talk about why it's important to be alcohol and drug free. Remember, the more you tell a child not to do something, and you scream and you ground, the more they do it. It is better to be as explainable as possible to them. Explain to them why drugs are so bad. Show examples of who, maybe some famous actors or actresses who have died from drug and alcohol abuse. Show examples of maybe local news where DWI crashes. Use pictures if you need to. But let them know, this is why I don't want you, Johnny, to do drugs and alcohol. For parents with children 16 to 18, continue to express your views, rules, values about drugs. These are my views, Johnny. I don't believe in using alcohol and drugs. I'm against it totally. And these are the rules in this house, Johnny. If you should break them, if I should catch you doing drugs or alcohol, which I hope I never will, because I think I raised you better, and I think you've been raised very informative, and these are the values, how I value not using drugs and alcohol. So explain that. Ask your teenager what he or she thinks about drugs. Ask him, say, what do you think about drug use and abuse? And the same applies to alcohol use and abuse. Explain to your children that life can be lived without drugs and alcohol. Create consequences about drug use before it is too late, because once it's too late, the end result could be an overdose, could be suicide. There are so many ways of how drugs and alcohol affect the final verdict, which is death. It's so important that these tips apply to each and every one, because I have now I have given you the tips for you directly as a parent and as a grandparent to keep all those medications locked up, to be aware of drugs that tempt the children, to emphasize good choices to your children, to explain to your kids why you want them to stay drug-free, educate yourself on how to prevent your kids from using, and watch what sports at school have a greater risks of promoting drug and alcohol. Not the sports themselves, but maybe the partying afterwards. And for you grandparents and children that have children birth to 5, mothers, if you're breastfeeding, abstain yourself from any drug, alcohol, medication use. Whatever goes in you goes through the breast milk into your child. You might as well just hand them the drugs then, because that's exactly what you're doing. So you need to abstain yourself. Please, just do it while you're breastfeeding. I mean, I hope to God that you do it forever, but especially during breastfeeding. Follow exact medication dosages written for your child. Don't think because you want them to speed up the process of recovery that you can give them a little extra medications. If anything, you're going to hurt them, possibly overdose them. Be vigilant about keeping all medicines locked up, especially if you feel that you have an addictive personality child. For you parents, grandparents out there that have the children from 6 to 9, talk about dangers of drug and alcohol use to your children over and over, not one time a year, over and over. When your kids are sick, be thoughtful in how you give the meds to your children. Don't overreact for every sniffle, every cough. Never give aspirin, because there has been research done that it might cause Reye's syndrome. Google search the meaning for that. It is a lengthy situation to go through on this video, so it's called REYE-S syndrome. That could be caused by giving aspirin. For you parents, grandparents out there for children between 10 and 15, ask your children every day or every week, what do you think about drugs and alcohol? What do you think about drugs and alcohol abuse? If you discover your child is using drugs and alcohol, don't overreact. Keep explaining to them why it's important to be drug and alcohol free. If you are noticing a pattern, seek professional help. For you parents and grandparents with kids from 16 to 18, which is the last stage before they leave the nest, continue to express your views, your rules, and your values on drug and alcohol use. It is important to express those views, values, and rules of drug and alcohol abuse or use. Ask your teenager what they think about drugs and alcohol. At this stage, you can kind of, get a good feel of how their future is going to be by their answer on, Johnny, how do you feel about drugs and alcohol at the age of 18? Hopefully that'll continue and have pattern down the road in their life, and create consequences about drug use and alcohol use before it is too late, because once it's too late, it is too late. Folks, these were the tips for raising drug-free kids. It is so important that you stick with a lot of these. If I speak too fast, keep in mind, if you're watching me on YouTube, you can stop the video, you can go back, you can slow it down a little. So, but if you need to, you can also contact me directly at Ralf, R-A-L-F, at Take Your Life Back Today show.com, and ask me to put this on an email, and I will send it back to you. You can also text me at 631-599 0218, and you can call me at 844-405-HELP, and I will also give you this information again. Folks, big changes, all big changes, start with very small steps, tiny little steps, but each and every step will get you closer to those big changes. And if you start thinking positive, people, please start thinking positive, because when you think positive, positive things will happen and you will see positive results. I'm a true example of that. Since I became sober a couple of years ago, and I started thinking positive instead of negative all the time, I have seen things get so positive in my life, it is unbelievable. And if you don't believe that, try it. Just try it out, you'll see. And please say no to drugs and alcohol, not just for yourself as a parent, a grandparent, a legal guardian, but ask your children, teach your children well, teach them to say no to drugs and alcohol. Keep educating them. And folks, when I ask you to educate them, I'm not asking you to do it just the school year at one time. I am talking about doing it consistently and constantly. When you have those family nights, bring it up. Educate them September, October, November, December. January, February, March, April, May, June. That's a school year. Every month, bring it up. And in the summer, be extra careful, because now your kids are on the loose out there. Out there in the open with those drug dealers. Out there open with those alcoholics. Educate them over and over. You cannot overemphasize the dangers of drugs and alcohol. You cannot overemphasize the results of alcohol and drug abuse. Let them know the worst scenario is death. Let them know, on the other hand, in a positive sense, that living drug and alcohol free, all the great things in life that they can experience. Let them also know the dangers of your health, as far as your kidneys shut down, of your liver being eaten away, of your brain cells just disappearing, and of the chances of heart attack and stroke, all due to drugs and alcohol. Let them know these things. You cannot emphasize enough. Folks, I hope to God this was a very informative segment. And like I said, any information you need, text me, 631-599-0218. Email me at Ralf, R-A-L-F, at Take Your Life Back Today Show, or call me at 844-405-HELP, and I will give this information to you. I hope to God each and every one of you folks out there has a great day, and I hope to God that you have a sober day, and I hope your children, your grandchildren continuously have sober days, because all sober days give you better tomorrows. And if you need my help, call me at 844-405-HELP and let me help take your life back. May God bless you.